Moving on, we have Ushite Galko-chan. The story follows the everyday lives of 3 high school girls who are close friends, Galko, Otako, and Ojo. Galko is a slightly foul-mouthed but good-natured girl who is popular in her class. Her hobby is film appreciation. Otako is a girl who sits in a corner of the classroom but for some reason is good friends with Galko. Ojo is an airheaded girl who often talks with Galko and Otako. The 3 high school girls with different perspectives discuss the kinds of secrets you can't tell boys. This is another short. I didn't watch it. I don't know how to explain. I also did not take notes for this for some reason. Probably because it's a short, and so it's like, who gives a shit with the staff of shorts? Like, there's no point in looking up the staff of shorts because they're shorts. If you're interested enough based on the sheer synopsis, which, you know, I guess doesn't really mean anything, you know, because it's a short, you can just watch the first episode and decide if you care enough, although I decided I didn't care enough. Probably because I'm not the kind of person who cares for shorts that much. I usually avoid them unless there's something that draws me to them. Maybe. I guess that's why. I don't know. It's a short. If you care enough, check it out. Otherwise, don't. Moving on, we have Koukaku no Pandora. Nana Karobi? Nana Karobi Nene, a cybernetically enhanced girl next door, heads to the island metropolis of Kenical, I don't know, to live with her aunt. A chance meeting intertwines her fate with that of the super-rich inventor Uzal Delilah. Interesting. And her companion Clarion, who happens to be a cyborg just like Nene. Nene is thrilled to make a friend, but there's more to Uzal and Clarion and the island of Canonical itself. Canonical, I don't fucking know. Than meets the eye. When a superpowered terrorist threats Canonical, Uzal claims that the only way to avert disaster is for Nene to team up with Clarion and use their combined powers, abilities Nene never even knew she had. The very first thing to note about the show is that it was written by the guy who brought you Ghost in the Shell. Yes, you heard that correctly. This was written by the guy who wrote Ghost in the Shell. Yeah. He writes very different things, you'll notice. Like, there's Ghost in the Shell, which is like, whoa, where did that come from? And even in the context of his other works, you're like, where the hell did that come from? He writes a bunch of random shit. So just being from the Ghost in the Shell writer isn't really a sell in and of itself, because, fuck. This is quite different, clearly. Anyway, I didn't watch the first episode, so I took some notes. And the director has done such a wonderful track record. He has done, or maybe is still doing, I don't know if it's still fucking going, Kiss Sis, and that Who is a Moto show, to name a couple, or maybe those are the only things he did direct. Fuck if I know. So that's a great track record. However, it is something to note is that the music is being done by the guys that did the soundtrack for Beautiful Bones, Witchcraft Works, and Trinity 7, which I remember people saying Trinity 7 had a very, very good soundtrack. So this could have a really good soundtrack. So that could be something to keep an eye out for. I don't know how else to sell this to you, because I didn't watch the first episode. All you should know is that, all you really need to know is that it was written by the guy who wrote Ghost in the Shell, but in the same time, that doesn't really tell you anything because it's so different, you know? I guess if you're really interested to see what kind of stuff the Ghost in the Shell writer writes, you can watch it, although it's an adaptation, so it's, you know, it could get changed around, so it's not a clear indicator at all, so... Fuck if I know! Which is wonderful analytical commentary from Riyoga. Wow. Such worthwhile commentary. But I guess that's the point of the season previews. I make it well known at the beginning that I'm kind of useless at this. Well, maybe not useless, but honestly, there's not that much helpful about this. These videos seem to be more entertainment than, you know, actual helpful, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I did help someone with my stupid comments along lines somewhere. Fuck if I know. Moving on, we have Sekkou Boys. Sekkou Boys is a unit of 4 stone figures, the military saint and group leader, Saint Giorgio? I don't know, it's like Italian or something. Giorgio, or George, fuck, I don't know. History's original celebrity, Medici, the strikingly handsome and multi-talented Hermes, and the god of war Mars, who is earnest about love, who become idiosyncratic idols. The story depicts their efforts to make it in the entertainment world with their female manager, Miki Ishimoto, who just graduated from college. So this is an 8-minute short, though it's 8 minutes accounting for the ending, which was like a minute and a half, so it's more like 6 minutes. It didn't have an OP, but most shorts don't have OPs, and if they do, they're like 30 seconds long, so still around 6 minutes. It's fucking great. It's hilarious. It's literally what you get on the tin. They are literally stone statues being idols. As in, like, they that's literally what they are on the show. Like, they're not drawn in, like, they're literally photoshopped into the show. And it's fucking amazing. It's actually a bit more intelligent than I thought it would be. Because, I mean, it's one of those things people will be like, yeah, sure, Riyoga. But it's one of those, the statues are the representation of, like, human perfection, and which is kind of the point with the college girl, is she left all these art schools because they had her drawing statues all the time, and she, like, got fucking pissed about it. She was so tired of them. And the entire point is, like, that's what they draw because they're like this, you know, embodiment of, like, human perfection, so, you know, that's what they draw for practice and such, and they're idols, and it's commentary about idols and, you know, how they're these stiff statues that we create, you know, for, and, like, dehumanize them in a way. I'm sorry. It's one of those things no one's gonna, like, everyone's gonna be like, ah, okay, sure, whatever you say, But even if you don't agree with that angle, it's still pretty funny. So, I mean, it's fucking marble statues photoshopped into an idol show. So, what else do you need, really? Moving on, we have Tabi Machi Late Show. The anime will have a theme of goodbyes and journeys, and will air 4 episodes titled Recipe, Transistor Smartphone, Natsumatsuri, which translates to Summer Festival, and Clover. I did not watch the first episode of this. I'm pretty sure I could have watched it, but I didn't. It's another short, which would explain why I didn't write any notes for it. That or I'm just shit at this, which is a very plausible possibility. But let's go with the first one. It's a short. You'll, I don't know, watch it if you're interested. I think I remember seeing some shots on Twitter around. It seems, don't take this for a fact because, again, I don't fucking know. I didn't watch it, and I didn't do the research on it for whatever reason. Probably because it's bare bones research to begin with, so honestly, it doesn't matter if I don't. It seems like these are done by, like, you know, student animators in a way. Like, from what I've heard, like, the first episode did not feature much motion at all. So it's almost, or maybe they're art students? I don't know. It seems like a little more experimental in a way. Like, it's almost like a training thing, kind of like the animator training program, except not really. I don't know. It's weird. It seems like it's being done by newbies, I guess. But again, like, I didn't do the research, so that could not be true. So, I don't know. It's a short. If you like shorts, you can give it a try and see if you like it or not. Moving on, we have Reikenzan, Hoshikuzu-tachi no Utage. In the anime story, a comet falling will bring about a great calamity, and in order to choose a child fated by the falling comet, the family of the Reiken clan with a long storied history is once again resuming its entrance examination process to find disciples. The protagonist Lu Wang, who possesses a special soul that is only available once in 1,000 years, decides to take the exam, and he starts down the path toward becoming an exceptional sage. I actually wanted to watch the first episode of this. I didn't find it. Again, it could be one of those things where I just missed it because I'm stupid, but I'm pretty sure this isn't licensed by anyone, so I may have to go to fansubbers. I actually don't go to fansubbers as my first choice, but if I can't fucking find it, then I will search in the depths of the internet for a way to watch it if I'm interested. So, I don't know. Actually, no, it may be one of those shows, because sometimes Funimation licenses shows, but then it takes them a couple days to actually get it out, so it could be one of those shows. So, I don't know. I'll have to look it up. Anyways, what am I doing? The director has done, literally in my notes, director has done shit you've never heard of. Which typically means not necessarily older shows, but like really vague shit that you've never heard of. Sometimes it also means old shows though too. Like really old stuff that no one's seen, or I guess not really old. Usually it includes early 2000s. So even in early 2000s, people didn't really care about it because the anime boom happened around like it kind of started mid 2000s and then just like kind of grew a little bit from there, and then starting in like 2010 it started like really growing. So honestly, like anything before like the mid 2000s is old enough that most people won't fucking have any idea. So if it's that old, usually that's what I include as far as shit you've never heard of. But it could also be just random OVAs and stuff that you've never watched, or movies, stuff like that. Anyways, extremely helpful. Oh, actually, I have a note. While the director's done shit you've never heard of, an example is that the most well-known thing he's directed is Weiss Survive, which was that one card show thing. You know, the way they spelled Weiss, which was like W-E-I, and then like the fancy looking D, which translates to like Weiss. It's like German or something. I don't fucking know. It was that one weird card show thing that like pretty much nobody watched. So I guess maybe it's shit you have heard of but just didn't watch. I don't know. And again, another show that has no music credits, so I don't even know if the music's gonna be solid. Fuck if I know. Again, I'd like to give you an impression on the first episode, but I didn't find it, so I don't know. It seems interesting. It's something I want to watch the first episode of. Reverting back to have not watched the first episode mode. It's something I want to watch the first episode of, so it interests me. I don't know if it interests anyone else, but there you go. It's Studio Dean, which have been honestly downhill lately, but they can still put out good stuff when they try. This seems like it's being done by probably a solid team, maybe, other than the director who's done shit you've never heard of, obviously. It seems like they're putting effort in, though really I'm just judging that by the art. And again, the promo image is not always indicative of the actual quality of the content. Anyways, I'm spending way too much time on half this shit. I need to pick up the pace, which I thought was going to be a thing after watching the first episodes, but apparently not. Moving on, we have... It's the second season of Gate. If you watch the last Gate, it's more Gate. Moving on, we have Shouwa, Genroku, Rakugo, Shinju. The story revolves around a mature... Why are they describing as mature? The story revolves around a mature prisoner who was released on good behavior during Japan's Shouwa Genroku era, 1960s to early 1970s. He is called Yotaro by others, a term that means an anti-hero or a dim-witted man. In the show, they translate it to fool. When he returns to society, he starts a new life in Rakugo, which is comic storytelling. Touched by Yakumu's role as the Grim Reaper, he asks the master to take him in as an apprentice. Jesus, words are hard. Okay. This is a bit of a period piece, and as someone who typically does not like period pieces, I am now going to try and sell you on why you should watch this show. Because I liked the first episode of it, and I liked it. And like I said, I typically don't like period pieces like this. It's not really a period piece, though. Because, I mean, sure, it's in the 1960s, early 1970s, but most of the buildings are still modern, other than the buildings like they live in, which are like old school houses. It's what's a good example of something you've seen? In Bunny Drop, they live in a house like this, where it's got the wooden doors and stuff like that, which is honestly a good chunk of Japan still. So that stuff is still there. And then the way they dress, but that's part of the job with being a, what's it called? Rakugo? Are you a Rakugo, or do you just perform Rakugo? I don't fucking know. Rakugo, which is that thing where they kind of like, someone goes up and they sit on the cushion and they tell the story, which is, sometimes there's like a message behind the story. Usually they're just like slightly humorous stories that go on for a while to entertain, stuff like that. As someone who again does not typically like, excuse me, shows set in older times, even if it's not that long ago, and Rakugo itself was never that interesting to me. The show's more than just that, because something you'll probably see from probably other people in the anime community that focus on stuff like that I don't usually do it too much. This is going to be one of those shows of an example of good directing, because there is a 10-minute segment where he performs Rakugo, and it's literally just him sitting and telling the story, and yet you never lose interest. Because, one, of the story itself, I guess, could be interesting to you. Two, his motions as he does it are constantly doing their thing, and it's not just constantly repeated motions. He's moving around doing different things, and the show pays attention to that. And three, the directing, as far as like taking attention of various camera angles, either to spice up whatever's going on or to add to whatever motion he's doing. Like when he taps the floor, sometimes like the camera angle will change to show that. And like I said, this goes on for 10 minutes, and yet it's not boring. Because while he's just sitting there talking, it's being presented in a way that is interesting and engaging. We'll get into an example of something that doesn't do this later. it's again, like I just said, it's an example of good directing. So I guess I'm just trying to say, as someone who doesn't usually like shows that show like this, you know, you see it on the chart and you're like, not for me. I'm that kind of person, and I watched the first episode and I liked it. So maybe you should consider watching it, even if you're that kind of person, because I was and I liked it. But here's the big caveat. It's a double episode intro, as in the first episode is 40 minutes long instead of the usual 20. So it's hefty, but it's hefty for a reason, because they wanted the first episode to be very indicative of whether you would like it or not. Things probably won't change too much after the first episode other than what the main character has to do, but after the first episode, you will know if you like it or not. So, although it's double the length, just take it off of my recommendation and give the first episode a go. Because despite double the length, you could be convinced to watch something that you maybe otherwise would have passed up. I don't know what else to say, I guess. Just that's it. I guess I can just keep it at that. Moving on, we have Divine Gate. When the Divine Gate opened, the living world, the heavens, and the underworld became connected, ushering an era of chaos where desires and conflict intersect. To restore order, the World Council is formed. As peace is restored, the Divine Gate becomes an urban legend. In that world, boys and girls deemed fit by the World Council are gathered. There, they are ones who aim to reach the gate for their personal objectives. Those who reach the gate can remake the world. I watched the first episode of this, and it is... Okay, this is actually interesting because... people like to use it a lot, but if you actually want to see a correct factual usage of the word pretentious, Divine Gate is finally the example. Because, holy shit, it is not as smart as it thinks it is. There are so many, like... It's one of those things... The perfect... People use pretentious a lot, and they use it incorrectly. And to the point where they're just like... It's... I guess there's no real factual way to say if something's pretentious, but Divine Gate makes a good damn effort to show that maybe there is a factual way to show things pretentious. Because there are a lot of lines in this that are very clearly presented to be in a way that's meant to be like, oh, that's deep, when really it means fucking nothing at all. Like, the rain always falls, but ever since that day, it never stopped raining in your heart. And it's just like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, you can, like, most of the times with those kinds of sentences, you can get the idea of what they're going for, and that's probably the closest example of a phrase that actually kind of works. But there's all kinds of shit that does not make sense. Like, literally, there's a line in the show that says, you're a liar, and yet you're not. And you'd think that maybe if they were clever enough, that line could work, but they aren't. It's literally just, you're a liar, and you aren't. And it's fucking stupid. So if you want an example of something that is actually pretentious, so maybe, well, not to say that, you know, everyone listening to this misuses it, but if you want to see what something that's actually pretentious looks like, or I guess sounds like because it's what they're saying, here you go. Other than that, I actually kind of like Divine Gate. Through its stupidity. Its stupidity is more endearing than it is a turn-off. I also kind of like the art direction where it's lots of focus on shadow, as you can tell by the promo image. And yes, they do look like that in the show. There's lots of focus on shadowing. If you watch the first episode, you can understand why they focus on that. It's not very subtle. It's pretty fucking obvious. It is... How do I explain this? I think I already did. In the fact that its stupidity is... It's definitely stupid, but it's an endearing stupid. But maybe that's just me. I like a lot of dumb things. And, it's usually a coin toss on whether they're, like, stupid or, like, fun stupid. And Divine Gate seems like it's more on the angle of fun stupid. But that's just me. I have very special taste. And by special, I mean correct taste in my foreign cartoons. So, you know, just take it from me. I guess this is the kind of show you can watch the first episode of and have a good idea if you want to keep watching or not, but I don't know. This is more like you can watch the first 5 minutes and you can decide or not. I guess the powers are cool though. Like they have powers focused on like, fire and water and earth. The typical. I was gonna say the typical 4, but there's 5 elements apparently. I don't know what the 5th one is. So fuck if I know. Maybe it's light or something. Hell if I know. Moving on, we have Bubuki Buranki. An original anime project to commemorate Sanzigen Animation Studio's 10th anniversary. Returning to Japan after having been away for 10 years, Azuma Akira finds himself attacked and captured by armed strangers. What saves him is his childhood friend, the girl Ogan Asabuki, and the Bubuki that had become her right hand. So this is a 10th anniversary project, which I usually like to I feel like should always be given the shot, because it's basically a studio saying we've been alive for 10 years and haven't gone bankrupt yet. And so they kind of put their 10th anniversary projects are usually very, very passionate projects. I guess I should get this caveat out of the way though before I beat around the bush too much. Sanzigen Animation is a 3D studio place. Usually they just help with 3D animation in various locations, but they've been doing some of their own shows occasionally. One of the good examples is Arpeggio of Blue Steel. That was one of theirs, which I like quite a bit. It seems like I like a lot of the 3D anime that most people don't. So I guess I should say right now that if 3D is a turn-off, you probably don't want to watch this, but caveat, 3D is coming its way. Watching this and then watching a couple scenes from Arpeggio because I wanted to compare, they're going places. The 3D animation is getting better. The effects were always good, like the fight stuff, like that's always been good, because the thing that 3D's always been good at is motion, because that's always what's hard to do with hand-drawn animation, is there's lots of detail. When something really fast and like with lots of effects is happening in animation, you have a lot to draw on each page. But with 3D, you don't really have to draw much, you just kind of move things. So it's a lot easier to do things that are motion heavy. I saw people saying that the motion in this show was quirky, but I actually thought it was good. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm the kind of person who isn't turned off by 3D animation that I liked it, or, I thought it was solid, whereas people who are pretty strictly dedicated to 2D animation were the kinds of people that said the motion was fucking weird. The one complaint I do agree with is that the backgrounds, while very pretty, do clash with the 3D at times. There are times where it actually lines up pretty well, but there are other scenes where it just does not line up properly at all, and it looks fucking weird. Mainly the intro stuff, because there's basically 2 parts to the show, with 2 completely different settings. The first setting is a lot more clashy than the second one. So it could just be that because they wanted to get the intro stuff out of the way, and so a few things slip through the cracks with it looking kind of weird. But I know it's one of those shows with the promo images, you look at it, and even ignoring the 3D, I'm getting to a different complaint, you'd see, that doesn't look like a kid's show. It's really not. Shit happens in this, even in this first episode, and that cutesy girl that's like on the left, like she gets fucking pissed. So there's some emotions going on in this, and then there's like manipulation going on, and like something I was actually really surprised by is there's a lot of clever imagery in this show, and I don't mean just the like pretty backgrounds. I mean like as far as like the placement of the characters with the camera angles and stuff like that, and how things are presented, which are things I usually don't expect from a 3D show, because usually they're not paying attention that much to it. But there was some clever imagery in this, which I was very surprised by. And like I said, 10th anniversary projects tend to be passion projects, and it really does show in this. So if you're not too averse to 3D anime, you should really give this a watch. It's actually like really solid, even just on its own story. Like even other people who are like not, are very dedicated to 2D animation and are saying that 3D is like fucking, horrible to watch. Even they're saying that the story in and of itself is actually pretty decent. Which really translates to good, and they just don't want to give it praise. I'm just kidding. I don't want to put words in people's mouths. I don't know. But it's also one of those things where I want people who are even averse to CG to at least give it a shot. The story might be good enough to convince you to watch it regardless. I don't know. It's always very hard to sell 3D anime. Basically, honestly, all I'm really getting back to with all the fucking talking around in circles is that you should give it a watch. Just watch the first episode. It's in another one of those shows with a very good first episode where you will know after the first episode if you want to keep watching or not. So definitely something you should do. Just, I don't know, maybe take it as a personal request from me, because like I said, anniversary projects are passion projects, and I like, I love anime, man. Like, even the 3D anime, which I guess people would argue, like, it's not really anime, it's 3D. I love it, man. And when passion projects come along, I like to give them love, even if you don't like it, just watch the first episode at least before throwing it, to the curb, and saying it's trash. Watch the first episode and then call it trash. I mean, opinions are opinions, but it's the kind of show that I'd rather you watch and then say you hate it, rather than not watch it at all and say fuck 3D. I'd rather you give it the shot. But anyways, I'm spending way too much time on this. I guess the problem is I'm not in season preview mode. I'm in episode review mode, where I'm like, or like a weird fucking between the two. Wow, weird fucking. Words are interesting. It's a weird combination of the two. I'm like in season preview mode, but I'm also in like episode review mode. So it's like I'm trying to do both, and that's why I'm spending so much time on stuff. Anyways, moving on, we have Luck and Logic. In LC922, people have faced a sudden crisis. Oh god, this text is really small. In Tetraheaven, the land of legend, 100 years of war had come to a close. The gods who lost the war searched for a new place to live and found it in the Septpia. What the fuck? Maybe the first one's silent. Setpia, the human world, which they proceeded to attack. Oh, good. The Logicalists attached to ALCA, a special police agency whose duty it was to protect cities from assaults by foreigners, angels, were compelled to act in defense of cities whether they wished to or not. Depending on their ability, Logicalists could initiate trance with goddesses from the other world and stand a fighting chance on the battlefield. Trance should have also been capitalized along with Logicalists, because proper nouns. This was interesting because Luck and Logic came out and a lot of people said bad things about it, and then I watched it and I liked it. Again, not very far into liking things that other people don't. I feel like the problem with the hang up on this show is, again, the thing that I like about the show in a way, although it's not the only thing. It's actually a minor thing. A lot of people aren't very on board with the show, because something you should know is that it says it's an original show, but that's not actually true. It's being based on a card game that is being launched simultaneously with the show. Sort of like Shingeki no Bahamut style, although I think the card game may have existed before Bahamut. The thing with Bahamut was that it had pretty big creative freedom. Like, the only thing card-related that even seemed to relate about it was that when they hunted the monsters, they turned to cards, which wasn't even a thing after the first episode. But maybe the characters were based on cards. And that's the case with Luck and Logic that someone did, is that they did the research, and a lot of the characters in the show are based on cards in the card game and stuff like that. And so a lot of the things that happen in the show are based on, like, card logic. Like, I mean, when they beat the monsters, they explode into cards, which is actually a pretty cool effect. Pretty amusing effect. And so there's like a hang-up, so like a lot of proper nouns and stuff, and they're like, this is stupid, like, look at these stupid proper noun English names, disregarding the fact that the Japanese just love the English language to begin with. Like, have you seen the pictures of, like, shirts they sell in Japan with, like, random fucking English words on them that make no sense on their own, but the language looks cool to them? It's like outside glass looking in kind of thing, if the phrase is correct, I don't fucking know. The language just looks cool to them, which is why, the phrases in the card game are probably logicalists activating trance, like, it's card game stuff, and they have to put that in the show because it's still based on the card game. And so, like, while other people were like, this is stupid, like, thinking it was kind of like brought down because of that, it's the thing I liked about it. I liked seeing how they worked around that stuff and put it in the show. So it's really hard sell. The things I also liked beyond just that were, I actually liked some of the character bits in the show. People pass it off because there's some self-referential stuff in the show. Like, the little sister character mentions the main character in, like, a meta kind of way of, like, being a villager A, and then later on being the hero protagonist who doesn't lose. but it's not really in like a wink wink nudge nudge like kind of way. It seems like it really does work in an in-universe way, which is the way you want to go, because the wink wink nudge way is just like annoying, or it's like, yes, I get it, fuck you, you know, like you feel it feels annoyingly condescending in a way. This feels more like it's like it makes sense in the in-universe show, mainly because they worked in conjunction with each other, you know, saying at first that he was a village Ray, and then by the end of the episode saying he was the protagonist who doesn't lose, and stuff like that. And it was more endearing than annoying, I don't know, but maybe I just look for different things in shows, which honestly is probably a thing. Other than that, I really like the color. The color palette you see in that promo image, like, that looks like a screenshot from the show, almost. Like, the colors are pretty damn pretty. Like, wow. The colors are bright and pretty in the show. They are nice to look at. Something I also liked is, not her, you could only see one of them in the previews, but there's another girl with, like, kind of, like, green neonish hair, who's, like, energetic and fun. I like her. She's like, the best character so far. There's a really nice shot of her that I won't really spoil, because it's fun to see it in the show happen, especially with how the way it's presented visually is way more comedic than it should have been. It seems like this year is, like, a good start to energetic girls. Like, the last year, maybe even 2 years, was all about, like, the smug anime girls, like your Shinju and stuff like that. Like, that was top notch. Like, now with Shoujo-tachi and Luck and Logic, it seems like the energetic Genki girls are making the comeback for girls of the seasons and stuff like that, which is, sure, I'm okay with this. Anyways, Luck and Logic, it's pretty solid self-contained episode. You'll probably know after the first one if you want to keep going or not. So if you wanted to know if you only needed to watch one episode to watch this or not, then it is, yes. Maybe that's the gauge I should do to make this go faster. Just tell you if it's the show where you will know after the first episode if you should watch it or not. Because that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to cater to both sides. Like, I want to cater I want to present things in a sense where it's like, you should, you know, watch it and form your own opinion. So I should say whether you can, you know, watch the first episode and you'll know if you want to watch it or not. But then I'm also trying to cater to the people that want me to tell them whether they should watch it without them watching the episode at all, which is not what I want. Like, I've never been here to tell people what they should think. I'm only here to both express my opinion, start discussion, and maybe help people out forming their own, you know, thoughts as far as when it comes to season previews and stuff like that. Again, rambling. Moving on. Durarara. It's more Durarara. If you've been watching it, here's the third one. I'm pretty sure this is the last one. The new Durarara was split into 3 parts, I believe. And this is the third one. So this is the last one. So after this, you can go back to waiting forever for no Durarara or Bakano. So hey. Or maybe Durarara it will do decently enough to get more. Fuck if I know. You never know, really.